Tonight on LTC News, facing eviction during the pandemic.
Certainly from a legal aid perspective, we're very concerned about a potential deluge of evictions come October 17th.
The future of outdoor dining.
People are saying that the governor has to, increase the number of people that you can have in your space. My experience is that people are afraid to be inside. So I don't think it matters. People are blaming the governor when it's not the governor that's going to decide whether or not people are comfortable being outside. We have to wait until people are comfortable being out again. And until that happens, this is going to be an incredibly difficult business to be in.
And the City Council returns to City Hall.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
All this and much more on this edition of LTC News. Welcome to LTC News. I'm your host, Matt Nelson. On September 22nd, the Lowell City Council returned to City Hall for its regular Tuesday night meetings. They had been meeting on Zoom since March because of the pandemic. The councilors determined that with proper distancing, they could now meet safely in person. Mayor John Leahy was pleased to be back in the chamber.
I think it's good. It's easier to deal with the meeting face to face. And I think we, get all the safety precautions covered, so everybody should be all comfortable, and I think it'll be good.
Lowell residents and invited presenters will continue to join the meeting virtually through Zoom and will be included in the LTC live coverage on Channel 99 for viewers at home.
Well, we got to get them in through Zoom, so you got a link, and you can see your face and you can speak. We just got to keep the gatherings down, the numbers down. So for right now, it's good to get the business done face to face, but the public's still in.
Residents who wish to address the council may request such by contacting the mayor's office at least 3 days in advance of the meeting. Outdoor dining, which helped keep local restaurants afloat this summer, is becoming more difficult in the fall. We asked a few local restaurant owners what their plans are going forward.
It's interesting because it's getting cold, so we're going to try heaters, see how that works. But it doesn't. People are saying that the governor has to, increase the number of people that you can have in your space. My experience is that people are afraid to be inside. So I don't think it matters. People are blaming the governor when it's not the governor that's going to decide whether or not people are comfortable being outside. We have to wait until people are comfortable being out again. And until that happens, this is going to be an incredibly difficult business to be in. There's nothing more than that.
The weather, it's like against us for the winter, so people cannot sit outside anymore. Our restaurant is like pretty small to sit people in it, so we only have probably 8 tables to sit down people. Some of them don't like to wait when they want to eat, so I think it's gonna be really it's gonna be hard for us. We're not gonna be doing the same as we always do. We're not gonna make the same money that we used to do, and to serve the people that we used to have in the restaurant.
Honestly, right now I don't even have a plan. I'm just taking one day at a time and trying to figure out what will happen. As of right now, the outdoor license only until October 31st. So hopefully they will expand it and we're able to have more outdoor seating for a longer time.
I'm hoping that either for me or for other restaurants that it might get extended, throughout the entire 2021. But we'll have to take it by ear. I think for a coffee shop, there may be a few differences because people do a lot of takeout. So the question really for me is going to be, are people going to be wanting to wait outside for their order? Or do I really need to look at expanding the online? Do I need to add curbside delivery? All things which I can now sort of put together using my POS system, which I recently switched over. So, we're gonna have to play it by ear for January, but hopefully at least from now until December, we'll be able to offer some seating with heaters.
We have heaters now, so hopefully that'll make a difference. Once it gets too cold, we had planned on opening a new restaurant next door, an Italian restaurant. That's sort of on hold, but we'll be using that space for additional seating. As we lose our outdoor seating, we'll be able to move people into that side of the building. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, but again, people have to be comfortable going out before this is really going to work for us.
And I don't feel like people do feel more safe eating outside. And with the cold weather, I don't think there'll be as many people going out to eat.
It's kind of dependent upon if the city's going to be allowing us to keep that streetery aspect behind the Jersey barriers. And if so, I'll have to figure out, will enough people want to be sitting outside with or without heaters?
I don't know what's gonna happen, to be honest. We have to stay the way that we are right now, like with the seatings that we have available inside. Like I said, hopefully by that time, my boss is already expanding the restaurant, so we can fit some more people in the restaurant, and that's gonna help a little bit for us, hopefully.
I think the heated tents will be great on days that are cooler but not windy. Today it's a little windy, so it's essentially blowing the heaters out. So, we'll play it by ear. Hopefully it makes a difference and it keeps the place nice and warm and people will be comfortable.
And like I said, I'm just praying it's nice until Christmas.
As social media has grown over time, neighborhood-centric Facebook groups have become a popular space for public discourse. In this next segment, we speak with John Mitchell, moderator of the Lowell live feed, about the group and the state of civic discussion in the digital world.
When and why did you start the live feed? And if you could just explain what it is as well to the viewers at home.
I'm John Mitchell, and I manage or admin a Facebook page. It's a private page called Lowell Live Feed. I did a lot of blogging around the time, like 2007, 2008. A place called Blue Hampshire, which was a blog that sort of covered the Democratic side of the New Hampshire primary for 2008. After the election, I sort of came home and got involved with more local things. And then I moved it to Facebook because I felt that Facebook was a platform where everybody used their real names and their real faces. For the most part, they represent themselves with their name, with their place in their community, and they speak from that. I am actually surprised at how often people will just say incredibly strange, not strange, whatever, like that people will actually say what they will say with their names and faces associated to it. But when they say these things on Facebook, if they're not a sock puppet, then they say it with they kind of own what they say. And I think that there is a value to that.
What do you think are the pros and cons of these neighborhood groups? Or I guess, to really get to the meat of it, do you think that there's a problem with these, being a moderator, you have to break up a lot of fights, I'm sure, calm people down and that sort of thing, standard internet stuff. But do you think that there's a problem? Do you think that it's inevitable, something that will eventually grow out of? What are your general thoughts on that?
The short answer is there are some jerks on the internet, but there are a lot more people that are just trying to have a reasonable conversation. I've heard lots of stories about other forums from different towns and different cities and whatnot, and people will come to me and say, "Oh, the horror show." I'm relatively happy with my group, right? Like right now, there's a national election. We just have a certain tone in politics that's risen maybe because of the tone that's in government. And people emulate that kind of monkey see, monkey do. But generally speaking, I think most people are well-intentioned and well-behaved.
The Massachusetts eviction moratorium is set to expire on October 17th. What does this mean for renters and landlords here in Lowell? We spoke to attorneys with Northeast Legal Aid and representatives from Community Teamwork about the moratorium and what tenants who are struggling financially can do.
The statewide eviction moratorium went into effect, I believe it was in April It was designed to protect from eviction tenants and their families from all but what are called essential evictions. So you couldn't be evicted and can't still be evicted for non-payment of rent or for no reason at all, or for a minor lease violation. There's a mortgage relief provision, and that is still available to folks who are having trouble paying their mortgage. They can get, through the moratorium protections, up to 6 months of mortgage relief. And that moratorium is in effect until October 17th, because it was extended by Governor Baker. Certainly from a legal aid perspective, we're very concerned about a potential deluge of evictions come October 17th.
Experts are predicting anywhere from 20 to 40,000 evictions being filed out once the courts open statewide. Once the moratorium has expired, any rent or even for mortgage forbearance, that balance is going to become due. If folks are lacking income enough to, pay their rent and keep current, or at least pay back rent, they can go to www.commteam.org, and we have our RAFT application actually posted right on our website.
RAFT is a program that's been in place for about 15 or so years. The program is set up to help families avoid homelessness. Community Teamwork has been the administrator for all that time here in this region. It is meant to, help with some back rent. It can help with, again, first and last when people are establishing tenancies. Right now, our limit is at $4,000 per year. There have been some expansions to RAFT so that we are able to work with single individuals. We are able to work with households without children. And we also have the ability to work in some mortgage situations for families, individuals, homeowners, renters. If they are in a precarious situation, RAFT and IRMA are the two key program responses that the state of Massachusetts has basically empowered to respond to those crises and help people kind of stabilize themselves.
If you as a tenant family get served with an eviction complaint, you need to act quickly to get legal advice and to exercise your rights.
In this edition of the Sunspot, Lowell Sun Enterprise editor KRIS Scott speaks with Lowell Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Joel Boyd and City Councilor Dan Rourke.
Thank you for tuning into this latest edition of Sunspot. With me are two officials from Lowell, one elected, one appointed. City Councilor Dan Rourke, he's been on the show before. Superintendent Joel Boyd, he's been on the show before too, and I appreciate both of you guys coming back on. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about, that's what we're going to talk about for 15 minutes, is the issues with the Lowell School Department that prompted Dan's vote before the City Council on last night on the 22nd that got approved 6-3. Dan, you can talk about that for a little bit.
Last night at the council meeting, we discussed the motion which requested the law department look into the way the city, through the city manager, could take some of the duties of the school committee and put them under the purview of the manager's office. And there are other reasons that should be talked about, I believe, over the past 15, 20 years of, whether it's fiscal management, accountability, stability and things like that. But the major reason why I filed it, obviously, was the current situation in Lowell. And, the concern that I believe I had with other counselors and, with school committee members, and I'm sure the superintendent would agree, is, how do we get our kids back into school, safely and in the quickest way possible? My opinion is that, we have followed all of the guidelines set forth by the state, and, for some reason or another, that wasn't good enough for Lowell. And, it was, one of the main reason why I wanted to look into it, and I know that the school committee and the administration is in a very difficult position negotiating an agreement to go forward. It was stated last night by the mayor that, he's staring at the wall for 4 hours because nothing gets agreed to at all. So, my opinion was, give the manager a chance at it, put her in charge of it, and let's see what we can get accomplished.
After it was announced, I think the week before last, that Lowell schools, the in-person learning would be delayed, you filed the motion, I think that day or the next day. What was the biggest factor? What was your biggest concern that prompted you to file that motion? I know there's been lots of stuff out there, stuff on social media, stuff in the newspaper, but what specific thing prompted you to file that motion? Because then we can have the superintendent respond.
Sure. Yeah, I think it was, it's the kids, right? I think everything that the students, the families in Lowell, that can't have, a parent stay home all day to log them on, to teach them what's being learned. Lowell usually Lowell High School is a, major minority school system. And, you talk about things with single parents in the city and even parents that work both full-time jobs to pay their bills, to pay their rent. And, to have school, in-school learning taken away 24, 36 hours before they're supposed to go in, I found it unacceptable. And, I know that there are reasons that have been stated. And, but again, it's just, I think everything should be looked for the students of the city,
right.
And hopefully, that everybody can jump on board that same bandwagon and get it done.
Superintendent, you got a lot to chew on there, so you got a couple minutes on that.
Yeah, I would say that the decision to delay in-person instruction for our students was entirely based on the commitments we made to the community. To suggest that it's unacceptable, I think it would be unacceptable to go back on commitments we made to the community over the course of a month in terms of our reopening plan, which the counselor was an ardent supporter of our reopening plan, which does include these air purifiers to ensure the proper air quality within our buildings. That was further validated by the CDC. I think it would further be unacceptable to eliminate safety requirements during a pandemic. We know that undoubtedly, and we have already seen, there's going to be positive tests within our schools. You can see we're here on Zoom for this TV show that's typically done in studio because of the concerns of spread of COVID-19. We need to take every precaution as we have to ensure that not that we can eliminate the risk, but we mitigate the risk and ensure that there's no spread if there is a positive case within our schools. I think ensuring safety for our kids is top and has to be a top priority. And I think the counselor would agree. I would also say that our schools are completely ready, as they have been. The staffing decisions that we've made have been to work through with the current collective bargaining agreement. Yeah, there's no agreement, no MOA with the teachers union. I think that frustrates everyone. But guess what? Every school district in the country are facing these challenges. It's not unique to Lowell. I would actually suggest that this is a time that we all need to collaborate and work together. I actually had a great conversation with the counselor. He's done extraordinary work in advocating for the turf at Cauley Field. People might not realize the amount of work that Counselor Rourke did there. I never question his goal of supporting families, supporting children. And I can tell you that's been our goal as well. We will still be the largest school district to put in-person learning in place for this number of young people on a full-time basis in the Commonwealth, I believe. That's the data I've been provided. That's full-time learning for our young people starting up on Monday. We've already had 5% get started up in person. Now we're moving up to 25%. There's decisions that we have to make along the way. This school committee has made those decisions throughout. They've been unified and they've been highly effective. There's since the reopening plan was announced on August 5th, not a step has been lost in order to ensure that we can meet the needs of our students. Designing two brand new school districts, essentially a remote district as well as an in-person district, a one-of-a-kind lottery to ensure that our most vulnerable learners are able to access those in-person seats. A change to our transportation policy to ensure that we can meet social distancing requirements during the course of a busing shortage across the country. An extraordinary amount of work. since even before the end of last school year to plan. And part of that plan included air purifiers in our classrooms. If they weren't important, I don't believe the city would have contributed $500,000 to it.
What we heard the most, and the counselors heard it, and they said it, is that classrooms were not ready because there was no oversight from the school department and from the union to get the custodians in there over the summer. We heard reports of classrooms just being basically a pigsty, trash not picked up, boards not cleaned, that kind of stuff.
That's untrue. Untrue, Chris. Untrue, Chris. Matter of fact, I've taken committee members on tours. The manager shared some pictures with me, completely different than the pictures that I was able to share with her. The difference would be which classrooms were being looked at that time, at what stage within the preparation work were those classrooms. We had PPE that arrived later. They were installed as soon as they arrived, again, before the first day of school, the scheduled first day of school. You heard Rick Underwood speak quite passionately at the last public meeting about the readiness of the classrooms. He was there on site in every classroom. Matter of fact, one school, Chris, was brought to my attention, a specific school. I went out there, looked at that school, and that particular school was even spotless at the time that it was brought to my attention.
Excuse me, Counselor, you want to respond to that?
I saw the same pictures that the superintendent did, but I do trust him that if he says that the school's ready right now, and Mr. Underwood, then that's good enough for me.
Is it true what the counselor said that just recently you guys hired 30 long-term subs?
Yes, that's absolutely true.
All right, so,
yes.
So just from an observer's point of view, wouldn't that have already been done? Over the summertime?
Yeah, I think the challenge that the counselor's bringing up in terms of the challenge with the MOA and how long it's taking with the MOA, we had I think all of that could have accelerated this process. But nonetheless, we're working in collaboration with the United Teachers of Lowell, working through that collaborative process, that negotiating process. It's progressing. It's taking longer than I think they would like or we would like. And part of those steps have to be taken in conjunction with those agreements. So would you like to do everything sooner? Absolutely. But this plan was put in place on August 5th, and we will be ready to go. The only question we've got right now about staffing, as I've talked with the counselor, which even before the purifiers, were for our upper grades at Lowell High School, which is a complex scheduling process at Lowell High School. We did talk about that. We've been transparent all the way along the way on each of these challenges as we get open.
Counselor, it's been announced now that that the schools will return to some in-person learning on the 28th, correct? Joel, on the 28th, yes. Right? Okay. So, but Dan, you still feel strongly that that the city council needs to take a look at your motion, correct?
Yes, yeah, of course.
And what's your biggest concern moving forward? It seems like this little hill has been surmounted. Kids are going to come back, but what's your biggest concern forward that warrants a review of your motion to see if that really should stand up?
My concern right now is the lack of agreement in place, and one of the things I said last night is part of my motion to look at some of the duties that we could take over is if it's that frustrating and if you can't do it, I asked the mayor to bring to the school committee tonight the idea of making the manager the sole negotiator on behalf of the school. So, if I know they're going out for months and nothing is getting done. So, we have to have it. You can't have two separate ways of teaching. I know that the learning management system was put in for all remote learners, but now it's up to the teacher to decide whether they want to use it or not. And it's part of the frustration that
it does seem like that MOU needs to get done. So, Superintendent, you can respond to that last comment. Then we're going to have to cut it off. We could go for hours, guys, and I appreciate you coming on.
I will tell you the manager is part of the voting body on the MOA within negotiations. She's part of that body, has a vote on that, along with the school committee. I will tell you that today And going forward during the course of a pandemic, these are unprecedented challenges. We'll continue to face challenges, and it's a time for us to collaborate, a time for us to work together. It's a time for us to stop fighting each other and start fighting together on behalf of our children. That's the path forward that we need to take. It's the path I've been suggesting, been recommending, and it's the path that I've been, I believe, practicing. And I will tell you, I believe wholeheartedly in this community, have high faith in our community, and I know if we start working together on behalf of our children, we'll be able to surmount any challenge that this pandemic brings our way.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for tuning into this latest edition of Sunspot. We kind of set history, having two people on the same time, kind of a little debate. That's a good thing. So, gentlemen, have a good night, and to our viewers, we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
And that does it for this edition of LTC News. You can find us on LTC channels 8, 95, and 99, online at ltc.org, on Roku in the LTC News playlist, on Facebook at LTC Lowell, or on our YouTube page. We leave you now with more scenes of outdoor dining. I'm your host, Matt Nelson. Thanks for joining us.